Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And it's St. Paddy's Day to everyone, so happy St. Paddy's Day there. It is Friday with 8 games on the slate as well. In this one, we're taking a look at the Fighting Irish, if you will, the Boston Celtics. They are in Portland taking on those Trailblazers. Take a look at this one for you guys. Also have another game video up and those player props, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page and follow along with us. Also want you to head to thelines.com. We have all of our great written NBA content and more up there right now. We also have that odds finder tool you can use. You can make sure you're getting the best odds available to you from all those books giving us bets this season. Nate, let's go through this little 8-game slate here on Friday and then talk about our game, Blazers and C's.
Yeah, Joel Embiid is looking to lead the Sixers here. -10 at Charlotte. His prop is at 35 points. Charlotte can't guard centers. The Warriors can't win on the road, are +4 at Atlanta. Draymond is out, I believe, ruled out. Looks like Steph's going to play, though. And the total...
Draymond had 16 technicals.
Yes. Suspended is out. 248 total in that game. Ridiculous. +5.5 are the Wizards at Cleveland. Memphis -9 at the Spurs. The Pels -5 at the Don't Sleep on the Rockets. The Wolves +2.5 at the Bulls. Interesting defensive matchup there. And then we're going to break down the last 2 games on this slate. We got Mavs +6 at Lakers. Total's been bet up a little bit to 227. And then we got our Celtics -4.5 or 5 at Portland. 230 total. I mean, Portland's one of the worst teams in the league. Full stop. Like it's we've been talking about this for a while, and they've one of the few teams that haven't let us down in terms of being bad when we expect them to be bad. Yeah. It looked like they were actually going to get the Knicks without Brunson in their last home game, and the Knicks just crawled their way back, dominating the glass. And Portland shot 38%. I mean, they hit 17 threes, but they shot 38% inside the arc. So that's definitely troubling. They're leaning heavily on free throws right now because other teams, again, since Dame's 70-point explosion, have really run him off the line, even more so than before, forced him to get into the lane. He's getting the line a good only 9 times per game during that span. That's not really going to get it done when there's no other offense around you. But he is turning it over a lot. His last 3, about 4 turnovers, -18. He only got off 16 field goal attempts when they lost in Boston, and that's kind of been their MO. I mean, they're holding him to 27 points a game, letting him get his assists, 12 assists, but also 5 turnovers his last 4 against the Celtics. So they're very capable with their personnel, with Derek White, in addition to Smart and Brogdon, to chase him off the line, force him to be a decision maker in the lane. And if you beat us that way, we'll shake your hand, but we're not going to let you just rain fire from deep, which is what most teams have done, which is why Portland has not been able to win despite Dame, still averaging 36 a game. They've lost 3 of their last 4 at home. It took a 71-point performance for them to win at home. All 3 losses now double digits, losing by an average of 9 points per game, even with the win. That's the margin. Second worst defensive rating at home on the season. Out rebounded again in that span. Nurkic not really back all the way. And so if they're a high free throw rate team, I think Boston is a team that will limit that. I mean, they're 3rd in opponents' free throw rate on the road. They were number 1 for a while. Struggling lately, as they are in general. But by the way, Washington, number 4 in limiting those free throws, beat Portland by 25 at home. The Knicks, number 8, limiting free throws, beat Portland by 16 without their best player. So Boston, it's a get-right spot. They might sit Tatum. Let's be real about that. It's the front end of a back-to-back. They go to Utah tomorrow. Then they got Sac on Tuesday. But even without Tatum and without Robert Williams, which does make you lean over, I think the offense will be flowing. I mean, it's a team that leans on threes. They have gone over in 3 of 5 without Tatum. Those numbers are completely skewed because the last 2 were OT losses without several starters, not just Tatum. But, I mean, this is a team that the numbers are pretty clear, right? If they hit 17 threes, they're basically undefeated on the year. If they fail to hit 16, they're just above 500. Well, good thing they're facing the worst 3-point defense at home in the league. And Portland's been even worse lately in their last 3, giving up 43% from deep. So I think we're looking at a get right spot, similar to when they went to Atlanta to start this road trip, scored 134 before getting in that Houston trap game and then grinding out a win in Mini. This is definitely seems like it'd be a higher scoring game that Portland could actually keep pace with a little bit more. I actually lean Celtics more than the total because I just don't think Portland has many options offensively. If Jeremy Grant sits, he's questionable. I would be really worried about the Portland offense because it's just Dame, and then whether Simons can give you like 6 or 7 threes off Dame kickouts, and there's just no other source of offense.
Yeah, I mean, Simons can get hot. We've seen him do that for sure. He can hit 6 or 7 threes. But I think the interesting thing about this game is this game, the Detroit-Denver game, you've got Philly. Like, can we just have 70 games in the season or 72? Do we really need all these games down the stretch that nobody cares about? Because that's what's going on with Boston, in my opinion, and that's what's going on with Denver and all these teams in first. Even Milwaukee just got beat by the Pacers last night as we're recording this on Friday morning. So just whatever. Do we really need all these games? I understand RSNs and all that stuff, not for right now, but that's what's going on with Boston, and that's my main point here. Is the only thing, in my opinion, that is going on with Boston is that they're playing Houston, Minnesota, and Portland, and then they're going to Utah, or they're in a row at the end here, and that's what's wrong with them is they don't give a crap. And I'm not saying they gave up on the 1 seed necessarily. I would care about the 1 seed. I mean, they just played the Bucks, in the second round last year and needed Game 7 at home to win that one, which worked out well for them. So I would assume they would want that same level of advantage in this year's playoffs if they're going to be a 2 seed playing in the conference finals this year against the Bucks. So this is just as important of a game. So is Utah. So is all of these at this point because you have to finish down the stretch, and I think they will. I think they'll continue to play pretty decent defense, but if Jeremy Grant is in this game, I do like an over. I do think that if they can at least have another weapon, aside, next to their 2 guards in the backcourt, that they should be able to get this game over 230. And the reason I think that is obviously starting with home road splits. Portland just as guilty as any team in the league this year, scoring 9 more points at home than they are on the road. Coming off of a road trip, where they played 4 of their last 5 on the road, and they've scored 107 points in those games, including the Knicks game that they just scored 107 points. Knicks playing a little bit better defense than the Celtics of late, because the Celtics have been playing pretty well, but the Knicks have still been a better defensive team all year. So I still think there's opportunity for points. Obviously, we know what it comes down to. It's a Dame Lillard squad, so it's threes and free throws. That's how they're getting their points. 12 threes, even though on the road versus the 14 they're making at home. Once again, more threes there. That's why they're 21-12 to the over at home this season versus a much worse on the road in terms of going over. So the defense is just awful. It's been awful all season. It's been worse since they traded their best defensive player in Josh Hart in their last 8 at home without him. 123 dead last, 123 defensive rating, giving up the 4th most defensive rebounds with the worst, defensive rebound percentage. You can get fast break points, you can get turnovers, you can get threes, they're allowing the 26th most threes over those 8 games. The 4th most, at 41%. To their opponents. They're only playing at a 99 pace at home, and yet still those games are averaging them scoring 119 and their opponents scoring 123 and a half or so. So partly why Dame scoring 5 more at home this year than he is on the road. You've got Nurk scoring 4 more at home, and a few other guys like Jeremy Grant's pretty much the same, slight uptick at home. But you're basically getting 9 to 11 more points from like your 3 to 4 best options at home than you are on the road. So it's not a surprise that you're scoring 9 more points at home than you are on the road, right? And I think for Boston, I don't know that it really matters. Like even in their last 5, which a bunch of those on the road, they have been good at defense, but they have been good in terms of like transition points. They've been actually much better around the rim and not fouling. And still, I'm sorry, they have not been as good around the rim and have been fouling, which is why I know that they were good on the road as in terms of not allowing free throws to their opponents. But if you look at their last 5 on the road, they are allowing the 5th most free throw attempts to their opponents. So I just think there's an opportunity for points, really, and I do think they can win. But I'm not scared of having to pick a winner or even a spread in these games down the stretch. Like I'm not touching a 12.5, 14-point spread, whatever, for Denver and Detroit. The same way that I don't even really want to touch like 4.5, 5 on this one. Although this one scares me way less, and I would be much more likely to take it. But I still just feel really good about the over at about 229.5.
Yeah, I mean, and the Celtics, you said playing much worse defense than the Knicks right now. I mean, they were giving up 61 paint points in these last 3 on the road. So way worse in terms of that margin, where the Knicks are still one of the best in the league. So I don't think Portland's only scoring 107, to your point. I think that is why you feel a little bit more confident. I do think the Celtics offense will keep rolling without Tatum. We just have a very small sample size of 5 games, 2 ugly games against Orlando and Toronto. But without the full complement, the other 2 were back-to-back recently. So there were a lot of guys out. I think you will see Brogdon and Derek White really push the advantage on the defensive end for Portland. I mean, Dame being tired, not being a great defender anyway, and Simon's also not a great defender. I think those guys are both probably going over their props here. I would rather look at them than Jaylen Brown if we do get props, if Tatum is ruled out, once we get that settled. And without Rob Williams, the struggles defending the paint might continue. As we say, watch out for Mike Muscala on a poster, but I do trust the Celtics to win this one. I think it's going to be a little bit easier for them to get this one than in Utah next time out. And they are very good in these back-to-back situations, more so on the back end. I think they're, aside from when they've benched their starters, they're undefeated up to that point. So I'm not really worried about the short rest. I do think they got some things right there, beating Minnesota, and that they'll pull out another win.
Yeah, the only thing I would ask you about is the role players here, because if Tatum is out, it's fine, but is Marcus Smart still going to be Marcus Smart the way that he is right now? Like he just has not looked right like himself. He just looks older all of a sudden, to be honest. But Grant Williams in their last 10 games, about 4 points a game, right? Like another really important role player. Like these guys need to step up. So this is an opportunity. I mean, even Derek White at 13 a game, Malcolm Brogdon the same over their last 8 to 10 games, Nah, it's close. I think they need one of those guys to get closer to 17, 18 points if it's not Brogdon.
Here's another thing you see. If it's a back-to-back, Al Horford might play one night, sit the next if Tatum does the opposite, and then you could suddenly get a Spike Horford game where he turns back the clock. Maybe that's what we get tonight. Yeah,
no, that's fine and great. That's actually a solid insight into this, because that's what I'm saying is necessary for Portland for Boston to be able to, I think, get those points that we want them to get and really put the hurting down on them on offense, especially, and start raining threes. So if that's going to happen, they do need those other wing players and role players to be efficient as well. So we'll see if they can do that and step that up a little bit, especially if Tatum is questionable tonight. But that's all the time we have for you in this one. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. Check out the other couple videos we have up for you on this Friday night slate. Until we see you next, happy betting.